Let's see how it is. Okay. All right. So welcome,
How do we know if
everybody.
it's
I
working?
think we are live. Yes. Yeah, we're super excited. So let's just wait for maybe a few people to join. Copy link to clipboard. All right, I see some response. Okay. All right. So welcome everybody to come. We are going to start in 2 minutes.
Yes.
All right.
We're already together, right? I
Yes.
see both faces.
Yes. Okay. Name member we have granted the permission. Okay. So all right. So are you able to see the video?
I watched it on my phone. Yeah.
So it's on. Okay. So
Yeah. It's on.
okay. So all right. Okay. I see people are joining in. So hello everybody. This is Tin Man Lee, and right next to me is Federico Veronesi. So I am okay. I'm super excited to be here because, as a lot of you have seen my email newsletter, Federico is my photography idol. And so I want to just say a few words before we begin. So I started wildlife photography since probably more than 15 years ago, and I was a very mediocre photographer. And then one day in 2011, I came upon a magazine in Barnes and Noble, which really changed my photography. And this book, I actually have it right here, which I'm reading even now. Is still the book. So it's a magazine by Nature's Best Photography. In this book, if you look into it, right here, I don't know if anybody have this book right here. So this right here, yeah. So that's Federico winning the grand prize, and that was the grand prize winner, the fighting buffalo in golden background. So I was so inspired by this photographer's work at the time. Most of us were taking photos with front lit. So I actually checked his photos out, and it was a very new style. I have never seen photos with this kind of backlit and dust. And also I didn't understand it, but I just felt a very strong emotion. So I've been following his work for many years, and very fortunately this past August I actually went to a tour with him and actually learned a lot from him. So anyway, so Federico, as some of you might not know, is a world-renowned wildlife photographer. He is a full-time photographer and guide based in Kenya, and also lead tours to Tanzania and other places near there. And he has won tons of international awards and make the cover of Remembering Lion, Remembering Elephant, and has done so much. And so I'm not gonna keep talking. So anyway, Federico, how about you tell us a little bit about how you really started? Because I know you're from Italy, right? And now you are a full-time photographer guide in Africa, which is very unique. I've never seen something like that. So can you tell us how did you start?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Tinman, and hello, everyone. Thanks for joining. Well, it's been quite a journey from Italy, actually, from one of the most industrial cities in Italy to the plains of East Africa. It's been quite a journey. I was fortunate to grow up in a family of people who were really keen wildlife photographers, and nature lovers. So I developed a very strong passion for African wildlife, specifically African wildlife, already when I was a very small baby. I was about 3 years old. So as soon as I was at an age, as soon as I reached an age where I could travel a bit further, my neighborhood, at 6 years old, they took me on a safari to Kenya. and that's where it was already a dream come true at the time, and it's like in that trip there was a bond that started with Africa, with this place in particular, with Kenya and East Africa, and that stayed with me throughout. And so after university, I spent about 3 months in Nairobi as an internship just after finishing university. And I realized that I really loved being here and living here. I'd come specifically to try to understand how life in Africa really was, besides doing just one safari of 10 days. How was it to live here? So I did these 3 months, and I loved it. And I found a job in Nairobi, which was a job related to administration, which is what I studied in university. And but it gave me the chance to move here. And then, of course, from here, I bought a car and I started driving all around in the holidays and in the weekends. Every weekend I would be out photographing wildlife. That's how I moved into Kenya. And then after about 4.5 years of the work, I decided that even that wasn't enough. And so I just wanted to go full time into the wild, full time among the animals, photographing them every day. So I set up a small tent for me in the Masai Mara, and I moved there basically in 2007, April 2007. And that's how I started. So I started photographing full time, guiding people. I took a guiding license here in Kenya, and so that's how it evolved from there, basically. And so it was quite a journey.
Wow! So it's really a connection since you were 3 years old with the animal, and I basically went to the first trip and then got connected, and then it's like the calling from Africa, right? And then you just went there, went for your job and everything. So that is courageous. That's very courageous, because a lot of us struggling with a lot of us love wildlife photography, but very few actually did it like this. So were you always this good in photography? That's my question. So how anybody inspire you, or like how you come up with the style and all?
I must say that I was very fortunate to grow up. As I said, my father in particular was a very good photographer. Himself, and mostly wildlife, birds a lot, and landscapes. And so by traveling with him, by spending time with him, he always had so many books about photography. So a lot of the concepts of light and composition and all these things kind of were infused into me kind of naturally, and as I was growing up, and without even me realizing. I remember sometimes we were going out photographing together, and he would kind of advise me, and so all these things stayed on. And then as I moved to Africa, there were some photographers who were based here. There was some very good photographers, Kenya-based, who had done a lot of work in the Masai Mara and the Serengeti. In particular, Anup Shah has been one of my great inspiration, and he was doing a lot of backlight. It was being always, his images are always very, very carefully. The light is always very carefully planned and dramatic and beautiful. So that was a strong influence. Then Jonathan Scott was another influence. I love his books and reading his stories. So that's also helped me to drag me into moving to the Mara. And then of course with time, with experience, you learn the mistakes. You see what you've done wrong, and spending a lot of time in the wild helps enormously, because you get more chances. You have time to correct the mistakes, and you have time to see things multiple times. So that enables you to kind of also know what to expect, know what doesn't work, because you've already seen it the previous time that it doesn't work, and so you know how to make it right. So it's the great advantage of focusing on a specific location, on specific animals, if you have noticed, most of my photography, actually 100% of my photography is African wildlife. I don't photograph anything else. I had never photographed any other animal. So that's it's a very, very strong commitment, but at the same time it enables me to really go deep and have a chance to, as I say, to learn from the mistakes. And so that's a big, and see so many different situations, which then translate into different photographs and different light conditions. And that's
I remember when I first met you last August, I asked you whether you were interested in going to places like Yellowstone and Alaska and everything, and you seem to be very attached to Africa. I mean, you would love to come, but which is really something that I love, and I have to say, because if I haven't been to Africa, when every time I saw your beautiful photos, I thought Africa would be that easy. But after I went there, I realized that, good light just happen. It was so fleeting. The sunrise is so fast, and sunset, sometimes you don't even have sunset, right? With the clouding and everything. So it is so difficult, which made me admire even more about your photography, which is why we are going to dig deep into your photography today. So I'm not, if we keep talking about how you started, it might take another 3 hours. So we can just start by, actually, let's say hi to the audience. I see that a lot of people are leaving comments and coming from everywhere, from Miami, from Pennsylvania, and everybody. So welcome everybody. So definitely, so Kyle just said that he ordered your book and cannot wait for your book. So which is exactly why we are here. So if some of you might know, Federico had a very successful book that came out before, which is called Light and Dust. And I have shared with some of my email newsletter subscribers that is probably the best photography book I've ever seen, from the photography skill and the whole design and the emotion in it, and also the quality of the print. And it was sold out. I have friends who were trying to get your book used, and it's like more than $800 and all. And I know you might have some good news for people who might be interested, so we'll talk more about that. But the key thing, just like what Carl was saying, is that you have a new book coming out, which is called Live. And I didn't even hesitate this time when you just had the Kickstarter began, I think 2-3 weeks ago. I immediately jumped in and bought the book. And I know a lot of you, actually, I think it probably broke some of the records of reaching your goal of the fundraiser in like 30 minutes, right? After you started.
It's been so it was quite amazing.
So why don't you tell us more about this book and how you came up with it and everything about it.
Sure, it's a pleasure. My first book, Light and Dust, also there was some black and white in it, but it was primarily a color book, and it was focusing a lot on the lighting, what we've talked about, the backlight, the dramatic lighting, and so I wanted to make a different book. I didn't want to repeat the same, and in the last few years, I've always liked black and white, but in the last few years, it has really become my strongest passion and strongest interest. So this book is going to be mostly black and white. There will still be some color in it, and the color, so it will be a play between black and white and color, but with black and white strongly predominant.
I see.
So basically, the idea of the book is called One Life, and the main idea came one December afternoon in 2017. That's about 3 years ago. So I was in the Serengeti in Tanzania. I was with some guests, and I was photographing. I was looking at lions, as always, in the endless plains of the Serengeti, where the beautiful rocky outcrops they're called kopis. They're kind of islands of rock in a sea or in a sea of grass, and often you find lions, cheetahs, leopards on these rocks. So it's a really amazing place and an amazing landscape. And on that afternoon, I found a tiny lion cub, where a lioness with two tiny lion cubs, and on a specific rock. And as I was photographing, I realized that just a few months before, I had photographed in exactly that same spot an adult male lion, a very old male, and who eventually was the father of those cubs. But they were exactly in the same position. I don't know if you want to bring out the two images, Tinman, to give an idea of.
Yes, I already. While you were talking, I already brought out the two photos. I don't know if you can see it yet.
Okay, they're there. Okay, because I don't see what's. Oh, good.
Yeah, because there's a few seconds of delay. So yeah, I already put the cub photo and and then the male lion. So yeah, so please keep talking.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Sorry. When I saw this image, I thought, look at this. These two lions are exactly in the same position, in the same spot, and on one side, it could be seen as the circle of life in a way. The father is the father, and then the son coming on the same path as the father. But more interestingly, I thought this could be the same lion. Actually, if I switch the images around, this could be the tiny cub, the same character. Just after being born, and then we meet him again in the same spot, in this case 12, 13 years later, in the lion's life. And in the meantime, also my son was born in June. So in between these two moments, my son had been born. So this was also a moment for me to make a reflection on my life, on my journey. So I had the idea of kind of weaving together my story, my life in a way, to that of the animals, and kind of represent it through the animals I have photographed through the years in Africa. And the rock could be a fantastic stage. So in the book, the rocks will feature prominently. It's not only animals on rocks, but the element of the rock is a recurring element throughout the story. And so basically, it's the story of a life where the character is one, but it's interpreted kind of. It's basically interpreted by a different subject in every image who just carries the story forward, but the underlying character ideally is only one. So that's the idea of the book, and through this journey of life, we have a chance to encounter different animals. We have a chance to traverse, to walk across different places, some of the most beautiful places where I love the most to photograph. So it's a way also to show the places that I love and the animals that I love, and some different styles of photography.
That's fascinating, because I'm just looking at these two photos, right? And you mentioned about at first I didn't even know they were at the same spot, because the cub is so small. But when you look at the lines on the next to the cub, you realize it's actually the same one. But because the cub is so small, it get into the same place, which is interesting too. Because I wonder if is it because the cub was following what the father was doing.
No, actually, the father, when I took the photo of the cub, the father wasn't even there. So it was just purely coincidental that they were on the same rock.
Wow,
it was purely coincidental.
That is really moving.
It was like,
yeah. And I wonder
the father by now.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
No, the father was not was still in the territory, but it was not with them in that moment. So it was just purely. You can also see in the cub's picture, you can see the mother behind, kind of looking at her baby. You can see the top of
the tension behind the mother watching it. Yeah, it's almost like the mother said, "Okay, I'll just let you be there for a few seconds before father came back," or something, you know. Yeah, I see. So that was the reason to begin this book. I really love this concept, because I mean, we all like sorry to add these sentiments in it, but I think we all, like humans, animals, we all share the same planet. And from getting this really grand landscape, right, with the rocks and all, like timeless, with the lion coming and then the cub coming, it really sent a very strong message of how we all share this same planet together, right?
Absolutely, that's the idea of the title. It's one life. The life is shared by all of us. The sentiment, the feelings of life that accompany us throughout life are the same, from the lion to the leopard to the elephant to us. And so in many situations, you will, hopefully the reader will kind of maybe see him or herself in the situations, in the emotions. So that's the idea of the book, to create a connection between reader and our companions on the planet, as you say.
I see. So this one is really a chance encounter that you saw them in the same rock separately to came up, because a lot of the audience sent me questions asking about pre-visualization. You know, a lot of photographers mention the importance that you got to have a photo in your head, right? So for you, are you more of like a photographer who improvise when you see something and then you immediately come up with a story and take a photo, or you actually plan about like, oh, if there is a lion coming up from here, that would be good, and then you just keep going there and hope that it will happen? Like, can you share with us, like, usually what is your mindset? I think we all want to learn that.
Sure. Sure. Well, I can say that most of my photography is reactive. So is reacting emotionally to the elements that are on the scene. So in Africa, there's some things that you can plan and kind of expect, but the vast majority of things are unexpected. You just, as you go into the plains of the Serengeti or the Mara or Amboseli, you just don't know what is going to happen to you. You don't know how the weather is going to be. You don't know how the clouds are going to be. You don't know where the animals are going to be. You can sort of have an idea of where to find them, and that's what we do, as knowing the places, etc. We kind of have an idea of where to try to find them. But then whatever happens is always different. Is always the light comes in a different way. So what I do, I'm always, as I move around, either whether I'm with the animals or without, I'm always looking around. Whoa, look at these clouds, and you're always trying to get in the elements and try to, as the situation evolves. Oh, look at maybe the beautiful clouds, or there's a thunder clouds over there. There's a beautiful slope here. If we can find an animal here, so it's always very reactive to the moment. So if you find some giraffes in a specific spot, I don't know if you want to bring out the giraffe backlit picture, Tinman, if you manage. It's, for example, you find the giraffe in a specific spot, and then you start. Well, okay, how is the background there? Let me position. So if the giraffes are there, the background is nice there. Let me position there to get that drama, and so it's always very reactive to the situation. There's not much planning not much. Of course, if I go to Amboseli, for example, I plan that I may plan that I want to try to see elephants. Of course, maybe, as you remember when we went and we tried to look for Tim. So that element is there. But then once you find him, you don't know whether you're going to find him, and if you find the subject you're looking for, then everything becomes reacting to what he does, to what the animal does, to where he is, to how the sky is. So it's there's a lot of emotional reaction to the situation. Not much planning. Not much planning. But photography in Africa, that's sorry. That it's also, keep in mind that it's a place where you go by car, so you can cover quite good distances in a day. And so as you drive, so many things can happen. There are so many animals you can find on the way. So I realize it's a different way of photographing from what could be a photographing maybe closer to home in Europe or in US, where you have that one species that will always, you kind of are able maybe to plan more, and I see a lot of excellent images of that are most kind of planned and prepared. But here in Africa, I feel it's a much more reactive thing.
Yes, and I have to say that when I was with Federico last August, right? And actually, I want to kind of point that out. A lot of photographers that I've seen work with, a lot of us, especially for beginning photographers, we tend to be more of a reactive photographer, meaning that we got to a place. We saw where other photographers are, and then we stood there, and then we basically just shoot like everybody else and then wait for the moment, right? That's what we were taught. But when I was with you, like for example, in the encounter with a leopard, right? What I remember for you is you instantly, the leopard is on the move, right? And it is, you only have probably 5 seconds to get the photo. But what most people would do is they would just aim at the leopard and like this, right? But for you, it's like, okay, Tin Man, look at this location right here. Like if we drive maybe 50 feet, there is a drop of the slope. And if we drop it over there and then we shoot, we get an eye level. And then we move a little bit more, the background will be nicer. And then the light will be this and that. So at the same time, you're thinking about 10 things. And most of the photographers would just stop there and hope that they can get a sharp photo, right? And I think that is really the difference between a great photographer making a good photo versus one who get just a sharp photo without a story. It's like when you just got there, instantly your peripheral vision is already looking at all around the landscape, like whether there's a drop, whether there's higher up, where's the background, where's the light coming from, and you also predict, like when the leopard is walking over to this point, and then you wait, and then you kind of get a little bit ahead, but you also observe clearly because you can go way ahead, right? Because there are a lot of changing situations, and I think that's what I love about your proactive approach. Is a lot of thinking, like non-stop. It's like 50, 100 things going on your brain, and then you are driving, and then you have to maneuver the lens, and it's almost like a race car driver in a way, right? You're like sweating and then thinking about those, and that's what I really want to kind of bring to this meeting here is about this kind of concept. And I'm glad that you just mentioned, because I myself had thought about that. Like how do people get like low angle in Africa? Because you're shooting from a car, right? Unless you have like those open door vehicle where you can lay flat, it is very difficult, right? But then I met you, and then you were like the whole geographic location, the whole landscape is your playground. You knew exactly where is this is drop, where this is high up, and then when the animal is going to come up to a slope and everything. And it was just fascinating to look at. And by the way, I just saw Steve checking in. So Steve is the founder of Nature's Best Photography, which is really how I got that. Yeah, so that is very good. And some of you asked me if I have your black backlit giraffe photo, and don't worry, we're going to talk about those. So that is very good. And guys and girls, please, even if you are watching from a replay later, please leave your comment and your questions, and then we will try to get back to you. But what we are trying to focus on is for Federico to talk about a few photos, share with us some of his experience in terms of the animal, the story, and also the photography skills. And then at the end, we're gonna answer some questions. Would that be good? So I remember one of you asked about when they saw the photo of the lion cub. They mentioned about, it reminded me of Lion King. So I want to kind of go to that photo where you can see another photo which really reminds people of the Lion King, and maybe we can start from there and explain or talk to people about why sometimes black and white works. Right? I think that would be a very good start from that one. Yeah. So let me go to this one, and
the Future King is the
yes,
Future King image. Yeah.
This one. Yeah. So tell us about
Yeah.
this photo.
Right. So basically, this is same scenario. Serengeti National Park in Tanzania, endless plains, rocky outcrops rising from the plains. So it's I think photographically that place is an extremely stimulating place because as the rock rises from the plains, you have multiple images that you can take of the same situation.
Mhm.
For example, in this situation, I could have been that the most straightforward position to photograph that lion would have been kind of 90 degrees from here and photographing the lion towards the rock. It's kind of more similar to the picture of the cub that we have seen before.
Mhm.
But as we were mentioning before, as I was there, I realized, oh, well, the sky towards the sunset. This is afternoon shot.
Mm.
The sky towards the sunset is very interesting. Was very interesting. There were some rays coming through. There was good detail in the clouds, and if I could position in a way that I could see both the rock and the plains, it could have been a more interesting story. It could have been a more interesting image rather than just a cub on a rock. It could have been, as we say, the future king. So I drove around the position, and I positioned in a way so that the rock would come nicely diagonally into the frame. So it kind of gives us a leading line across the image. And at the same time, I could see the rays of light towards the sunset, and I could see the plains lit up by those rays of light in the distance. So it could give the sense of space. And suddenly the image gives the sense of a lion overlooking the landscape instead of just being, okay, a lion on a rock. So it kind of evokes more a stronger reaction and connection to what the cub is thinking, and that's and of course then in the one life idea that this image works really well at a certain stage of the story when the cub is still small and is growing up and is starting to dream what his future life will be, where will he go in his life, what will he be, and so of course probably that cub wasn't thinking any of this, but that's the connection that that I want to inspire with the image in a way. So yeah, and the use of black and white in this kind of landscape, I think it works extremely well because the rocks themselves are extremely interesting subjects. Even without the animals, sometimes you could photograph them. And in fact, the story of the book opens with an empty rock, and it kind of sets the stage for the rest of the story. So and among the features that are mostly very interesting in the rocks are the shapes and the textures, and these come out really, really well in black and white. These provide a very, very good setting for the black and white, and you can, and then especially maybe like in this one, we have some light coming through from behind, so you have that contrast of light and dark on the rock, and so that's one of the that's why most of my rocks images are black and white. Not all, but most. It really draws. It kind of makes them eternal in a way. It takes them away from the moment and puts them in a timeless sphere. Let's say.
Very true. Because I think with color, then people would drag into the color of the sky, and they would not be able to see the gradation of the cloud and the rays, and also probably the color and the green color and everything would just take away from that. But I just want to kind of point out, because a lot of people I work with asks me about like how do you take photos with more landscape in the photo, and for most of us, right, when we go to Africa, when we see a cute lion cub, right, we probably want to get close and then shoot a portrait of that. So first of all, to get further away and take a photo like this, take a lot of courage too, right? And then you have to think dynamically. I don't know if our audience were able to see how you position this photo, which is, for example, if you look into the upper left, you see this rock, right? And then you see this line of the rock. It's almost like a pseudo line, kind of going from one rock to the next and point right to the cup. And then also from the lower left, right, you also see this movement of the rock and all going right to the cup. So all this leading, and also from the right hand side, lower right, you see that this rise also points to the cup. So basically this whole photo has three kind of what we talked about tension before. All the tensions are aiming at the cup, and because the rock has this texture, very strong texture, and then the cup is very fluffy, right? So it draws the eyes into here, and then with the paw coming out and relaxing, you started to think that the language, body language tells a lot, and then you see the lights coming from above. So this is really a once a lifetime shot. So from the time you saw the lion cup to composing this photo, like how long did it take? Because I guess the cup is not gonna stay there and posing for you for a long time, right?
Yeah, no. Fortunately, in this moment, it was a good afternoon. Lions tend to come to the rocks, mostly in the early morning, depending on how hot the day is. But they generally come to the rocks maybe by 7:30, 8, and they just use the rocks as their shelter for the day. So in the afternoon, you will often find them on the rocks, just relaxing. So the mothers were somewhere to the left, and they were sleeping. This was a litter of, was it 6 cubs? I think 6 or 7 cubs. 7 cubs. This was February in 2019. So actually the lions were there. They've been there quite a while, so I have quite a good selection of images from this moment, because that's what they normally do. They start waking up, especially the cubs. If there are many, they start playing. They start waking up at maybe 4:35, and they kind of go up on the rock and look around and all that. So there was a bit of time in this situation, but still, when you have that time, that's when you have to make use of it, and start thinking, what image do I want? Wow, this could be very nice. And so you have to see how far you can go with the positioning, and then you can work on the height of your camera. This is taken with a 70-200 lens, most likely, so something within that range. So we were still quite close to the rock.
Yeah,
we're still quite close to the rock. Yeah.
And I'm glad that Steve just pointed out about this photo, because the leading line pointing to the lion cub, and then the cub was looking into the landscape, just like what Carl was saying about Lion King, right? Looking over his future kingdom. And if the view in here, it instantly creates this 3-dimensional view, right? The distant cloud, and then the rock here, and then he was high up in there looking down without fear, right? There's a lot of emotion in this photo, and that's why I love about your photo. It's just that the more you look at it, the more you like it, right? And I mean, this one also really comes together with the one you just showed us, right? With the lion in the father's position earlier in this rock, and now it's coming out, right? It's almost like a kind of like a movie, a storyline, which is really, really good. And that's why I want people to not just look at like, oh, this is a nice landscape. Instead, to focus on all these fine elements, because as I just mentioned to you guys, right, Federico would just move around and look for the position so that every element would come together, which is really a challenging thing. It's almost crazy when you think about it, right? How do you keep like the moment like this, and then you have the light coming out and everything? So I think that is really good. And while we have time, maybe we can go to another photo before we go. Let's change the order a little bit, because I think some of the audience asked about the giraffe photo, so about the backlit. So since we talk about black and white, we can talk about some giraffe, and then we can go to the leopard, right? So anyways, but I want to show with this cover photo first, because I mean, this is the cover of the book, right? So it is very important, and I think the concept of it, because of the one life, right? I don't know if the photo probably is gonna take a few seconds to show up, but I just posted the photo with the female and the male lion standing together on the rock, and I think it is showing up. So can you tell us about this one? Because I know the concept now, but maybe you can explain to people why you use this one as the cover.
Well, this is again, we have the rock. We have two lions. Their position is almost perfectly overlapping, so it kind of merges into one, and that's why the concept of one life comes back. And I just love the way the two lions look at the future. This image comes in the book, in the story, comes a good way when our character is an adult, and he is probably, that's the moment that celebrates the moment when you find the connection with someone, a connection that is so fundamental in our life and in Lion's life, in everyone's. And so that's I think that picture really captures this moment in a poignant way. So that's why I wanted it to make the center point, the centerpiece of the book, and it's two lions, but it's one life. So that's the idea. Yeah.
I really like it, because I mean the whole arching of the body, overlapping the two, and also the lines of the rock really complement the shape of the tail and the whole body. It just come together. I think this is and the texture, right, with the body, the fur, and the rock is just. Well, people are very excited about this photo. So before we go on to, because I really want you to talk about the Luluca connection, but one of you asked about the giraffe backlit, right? So I want to show these two photos of well, you guys all want to stay for 10 hours, right? Talking is nothing more fun than talking about crazy photography. Yeah, because I really want to go deep into this one and really learn about that. But so I guess Roberta was asking about this one, which is gonna be showing up in a bit, which is your giraffe photo with the water splash, and maybe you can tell us more about. Oh yeah, this is my question to you. Like, how did you go to the backlit route? Like, what inspired you, and what are the biggest challenge and tips you can share with audience about that? But yeah, why don't you tell us more about this photo first, and then the whole back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this photo came about in one early morning in the Mara. This is in the Light and Dust book. This is quite an old image. It dates back to 2010. One morning in June, I was coming out of camp just near our camp. There is a river crossing that we often do. You might remember, Tinman. There's in the Mara you keep crossing rivers back and forth. They're not very deep rivers normally, unless you happen to be there after a thunderstorm. But normally they're very shallow rivers, so you can cross them with the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And this one is very close to camp, so we always find it. We always cross this river very early in the morning, often before sunrise. And it's amazing because in this one specific spot, I've got 3 or 4 images in the Light and Dust book taken exactly in one spot, just to give you an idea of how productive it is. Out of like 10 years of photography throughout the Mara, 3 out of 150 images come from the same spot. So it's really a nice river. There are always hippos there. So you sometimes do hippos with the sunrise behind. Sometimes there's mist on the river, so with the hippos yawning, it's really fascinating place. That particular morning, this is quite unusual. Already at sunrise, there was I think 3 or 4 giraffes drinking at the river edge. So the river flows basically towards the east almost. So it's kind of when you look in a certain direction, you're basically looking into the sunrise. Mm-hmm. And these giraffes were drinking more or less in that area, so that I could position in a way that I would have the giraffes almost directly between me and the sun, and the background, because it was against the light, was mostly still in shadow. The sun hadn't hit it yet, so I could have the giraffes backlit. So the backlight gives this beautiful rim light on the animal's fur, with the water splashes coming when from the drinking, with the dark background, which makes the whole thing, makes the highlights really pop out. In this moment, what has just happened, the giraffe has drank, and when they finish drinking, as you might have seen giraffes drinking, they have to spread their legs wide and lower their necks. So it's not particularly comfortable for them. So when they lift their neck, often water remains in the mouth. And so as they lift the neck, this water comes out of the mouth.
Wow.
And in this particular situation, it produced this beautiful S shape, and that was captured in backlight against the dark background. So the drops of water were fully lit up, and the background was dark, so the shape of the drops of water really pops out well. But in that moment, that's where I was talking about the reaction to the moment. I saw the giraffes there. I thought, wow, these giraffes, when they drink, they're going to blow out water. So let me position there. I picked the tight lens, so I could. This is not a crop at all. This is just the way it was shot. So it was risky because I had the 600 only at the time. I didn't have the 400, and we'll talk about maybe later. Yeah. So the 600 was a bit tight at the time, but fortunately it did manage to fit. And so I thought, okay, I want to focus only on the head and the water coming out. When they do that, let's see what I can capture. Obviously, a very fast shutter speed to freeze the water drops. Main thing in this kind of situation, you have to underexpose. I don't know if we want to enter into a big debate about exposure. I'm not sure it's a good idea because it might take long, but basically the idea in these backlit shots, especially if the background is dark, you need to underexpose to have this dramatic effect of a primarily dark image with the light, with the lit up areas of the image perfectly popping out. So that's underexposure was the key here, with and a bit of positioning compared to the subjects, knowing what they're doing, position, and hope that something comes out.
That is crazy. So one of the audience asked whether you use filter. So I guess no filter, right? Just underexposed.
No.
And So I think this really Federico gave us a very good explanation about this photo. And now, I mean, I didn't even know it, but now it really adds to it, because probably only animals like giraffe, where they have to like spread their legs to get down to drink water, and you know the force of the neck, right, when they rise up, right, and then with the natural behavior of the water in the mouth to create this kind of upward motion of the water. So first of all, you have to understand the behavior. Second is you have to find a nice background, and third is you knew that only with the darker background you see the rim light of the neck and also the water splash, and then you have to make a high shutter speed to freeze that motion to see the shape, right? So I mean, this is so much going on, and then this is full frame, as you mentioned, which is crazy because you didn't crop anything, and it is sharp, and it is backlit, so autofocus is very difficult as well. So, and I mean, and then look at that, and I want to, I'm very obsessed about this composition stuff. But when if you look at this, you look at the lower left, right? Also this leading line of the S curve, all leading your eyes going up, following this path into the giraffe. So and then this whole line just connects the whole photo. Probably you can't see my cursor, maybe you can, but I think this is just in a split second, but there are just like 100 things that Federico was thinking on that. But getting now to the backlit. So when I first read your book on light and dust, I know it's almost like your signature style with a darker tone with backlit, and it's usually give me a feeling of very emotional, but also have a kind of like a heavy feeling to it. Like, so I always wanted to ask you, like, what do you want to express? Is it I hope it's not too personal, but like, what is there anything like in your life that, or your feeling, or is it like thinking about the wildlife in the whole, in the world? Like, what do you want to express through your art in the backlit area? I don't know if this is a good question, but you know what I mean?
That's a difficult one. It's a difficult one. I think, especially at the beginning, it was a way to draw the eyes into the essential play of light and dark. So with the backlight, you really backlight or strong side light, you can really play around with what elements of the scene you want to highlight, you want the eyes to see. So I think the images, especially when you have cuts, backlight doesn't work with everything, because if a subject doesn't have fur, then the backlight, it's really difficult. It doesn't really work. It's something that it works specifically with cats or animals with fur. There is meat or dust, creating that kind of veil of separation from the background. Otherwise, the whole thing is just black. But when you have that rim light, then you can you get, and I think, especially if you have animals interacting, or even just a single portrait, that kind of light really opens up a whole world of intimacy and connection with the animal. It almost looks like you can really get into its emotions rather than just documenting how a lion is or an elephant. It draws completely away from the documentation and focuses on the emotion and the drama of the moment, if it's a dramatic moment, or otherwise just a portrait. I really love that to go into, and each image is different. So one image might, let's say, for example, a mother and cub interaction in that light, where it's like a dreamy scene, it's like something that is out of space, out of time, and it's kind of in a very, very evocative atmosphere. So it kind of removes everything that is not needed and goes straight into the connection that you need to make with the animal, the emotional connection to the animal. So that's probably the main thinking, just to make the emotional connection stronger. And that's what probably I would say. And again, with same as in black and white, I really like, even in color, I like to all of my images are consisting of a play between light and dark, and just using light to go only to lit up only the elements that you really want lit up, and let all the rest become dark, and so again, it reduces all this distraction, and you just go straight into the eyes, into the soul of that animal. So that's basically probably why I'm. Besides also the aesthetic element, I love the warm colors of the sunrise, of the backlight. I just love that warm tonalities of Africa. It kind of brings a lot. It kind of evokes Africa a lot as well. That warm tonality, and so I think there is also that element in play.
I see. So before we get into that, I think a lot of people are asking you, how much do you underexpose for this kind of drama?
Yeah, well, that depends a lot on the background, how dark the background is, and how lit up the subject is. But let's say generally I go from minus 2/3 to minus one and a third. I seldom go beyond that because there is that's something that you can eventually, if you need more dark, you can always do it afterwards. The only times when I will go darker is when there is a lit up part of the image that you need detail on, and that's when and the rest is all dark. If you don't underexpose massively, you might lose that detail in that bright part. So in that moments, you have to really go even -2 sometimes. But otherwise, for backlit stuff, normally between minus 2/3 and minus a third, and 1 1/3, and minus 1 1/3.
Yeah. Okay. So I see that. So we got a lot of questions.
Sure.
Right? Somebody were asking about the elephant, but before we got to the elephant, the time is coming up. We should talk about it's almost an hour.
I told you there was going to be a lot to talk about.
But this is so much fun. Because since we are on backlit, I want to talk a little bit more about the backlit before we talk about Tim. So you mentioned about how you want to bring out the emotion with the light and dust in Africa. So that got me into asking this question. Because I asked you about the emotion, right? So and then I saw that in your book, Light and Dust, with the style that is very aligned with the giraffe photo is when I saw the Luluka photo, and also let me just see if I can pull this one out. This one. So
which one is it, Tin Man? I can't see it on the Skype.
Oh, it's gonna be showing up in 5 seconds. So it is the one Luluka was lying on the mother with.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I saw that quite a few of your photos with cheetah, with lion, with leopard. You want to capture the moment of the bonding, but a lot of the photographers they go for the hunting, the killing, and some of them they like portrait close up. And for you, I see that a lot of you have this kind of a little bit of sadness in this photo, in usually the bonding photo. I don't know if it is sadness or the feeling of I don't know how to describe, but can you explain a little bit about is this what you wanted to convey with this kind of bonding photo, the series of your photos? That is there any emotion that you want to convey the most? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the bonding, the relationship between animals, often of the same species, are one of the things that fascinates me the most. And because again, we go back to the element of connection to our emotions. So it's something that we can really relate to. It's something that it brings us close to them in a way. So it's also on a conservation point of view, it kind of brings us together. So it helps people to participate in the challenges facing these animals, facing the places where they live. So there is also that element, but I like, as you say, I've been trying to photograph animals hunting and stuff, especially at the beginning. I was spending a lot of time with cheetahs and lions, and so that element initially was I was interested in it, and of course guiding guests. A lot of guests want to see that, and so I'm happy to see that. But generally, more than focusing on the specific action, I like to follow the animals extensively, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, every day with the same animal. And so you get to see everything that happens to that animal in that space and time. So there will be kills, of course, because they have to feed, but there will also be love. So you get the moment of the hunt, and then the mother calls her cubs, and she's the most loving creature on earth, while only maybe half an hour before she was suffocating a gazelle who also had her baby hidden somewhere. So there is this extremely strong emotional level of the predators being at the same time having to live, but at the same time being the most loving creatures, and this comes through in those images. So I like to establish a connection with the animals by following everything that they do throughout throughout the days. And so these are some of the most interesting situations, this connection when they interact between each other. There's courting or mothers and cubs, and so that's basically the idea. Nowadays, in this book there will not be even one photograph of hunting animals. There will not be any hunting scene. So just to show how I've kind of lost a bit of interest for that, gruesome aspect of the wildlife. I prefer to focus on these kind of more evocative and emotional situations.
Yeah, the key is to bring people together, right? Once we can connect, change, right? Really, this is the important thing.
Absolutely.
So maybe with a few quick sentences. Sorry, the time is running out really quickly. So why don't we? Before we move into Tim, because I think it is very important to bring the awareness of elephant for the audience. But I also want you to describe the leopard cub in this story and how you followed her and when she grew up, and then maybe we can end the leopard story with the one that I really like, which is the one I have too many photos that I like. The one that is on the rock, and also the one with the rock and the sunrise. How about that? So why don't we?
Sure.
You tell us more about the leopard cub in here.
Yeah. So now the leopards that we see here are the mother is a beautiful female called Lorian. She was born in 2006, and I started following her since 2007. That's when I started to see her when she was just about a teenager. She had just separated from her mother, but she was still in the mother's range. So sometimes I would also see the mother as well. And then she moved further east from the area she was born, and for 1 year or two I never saw her again, up to the point that I was fearing that she was gone. But then eventually I found her again farther to the east of where she was born, and she had established herself in her territories. She was a successful mother, and this picture that we see here comes from 2015. In 2015, Lorian had a tiny baby, a little girl. Immediately, this female leopard was a really special one. She was really, really relaxed with vehicles, but most of all, she was very playful. She used to play a lot around her mother. So she was a special cub. You could really see that she was special, and she was named Luluka. And born in more or less July 2015. And what's interesting, Tinman, you might remember that Luluka is that basically the first leopard that you saw in your life.
Yeah, that's when she
exactly. Basically 4 years later, she had her first litter.
So that's what
normally happens. Yeah, let's bring it out. Yeah, let's continue the circle of life. So you see her as a baby here, and then 4 years later, here she is carrying a baby in her mouth to protect him from danger of lions and other leopards in the area. So it's really fascinating to have the possibility to follow these leopards, these individual animals. Not only leopards, but leopards certainly have a very, very strong aura and charisma that makes them extremely fascinating. But to see them through the years, seeing her as a cub, and now she's the mother, and she's taking her cub to safety. So that image is in the one life. So that reinforces the whole journey of life that is discussed, that is told in the book. And it's so what normally happens with leopards, they although they might have cubs even earlier, as when they get independent, when they become independent at about 2 years, females can have cubs already. But generally, they become successful in raising them only when they're 4 or 5 years old, because they need experience to know how to hide their cubs, what to do, when to move them, where to put them. So that's in a place that is full of jackals, lions, hyenas, baboons, snakes, eagles, all these characters are there hoping to get a bite of one of Luluka's cubs. So she has to be really experienced and really able to hide them properly, and that normally comes after maybe 2 or 3 litters, maybe get lost, and then then generally they become successful after 5 years old, after 5 years of age. So that's a very interesting moment that I was happy to be together when we captured it.
Yeah, I still remember how crazy, like you just ran nuts when you saw Luluka carrying the baby, and now I can see why, because it actually brought tears in my eyes when you look at the eye of Luluka, right, the determined look, and then you think about just a few years ago she was lying on the back of the mother, right, like just so playful, right, like just a little baby girl, right? And now she's leading life, and then she was protecting her cub away from lions and hyenas and everything, like moving it. And then you were the lucky guy, Federico. Like you actually were able to witness this thing, which I mean, it's just some of the audience was talking about, like many of them have never been to Africa, and they had to live through your photos. And of course, I mean, I recommend them to join you in the future to really experience it. But I think this is very unique in a sense that we can show people about how powerful these photos are when you connect them together, like what your book is talking about, the one life, right? You see that how their life is changing, and if we humans provide them with a place where they can still thrive, then they can keep moving on, and your beautiful photos really brought this emotion to us. So let me just God, time is just so short, right? So let me just show you people. Let me see. Which is another good photo. And since you're talking about black and white, so I'm just showing another photo of the rocks and with the leopard on it, so that people would know. The interesting thing was when I was talking with a lot of my clients and students, many of them they were kind of partial to black and white. They think, well, we see things in color, right? Color is so beautiful. Why do you want to remove the color? And then when they turned their photo to black and white, it didn't look good too. So it makes sense. So I think there is probably 3 levels what I can describe is, the first level is you just turn a photo into black and white and it doesn't work. And then second one is you just show it as a color photo. But if you know the elements that make the black and white works, then it becomes many times more powerful. Such as this one. I don't know if you can see that now.
Is it the diagonal one? The diagonal.
Yeah. With the
okay.
Yeah. So with the rock. Also, we see the leading line from the lower left and then pointing up to the leopard, and because of the pattern, right, it instantly stand out. And so maybe. Well, in addition to the story, maybe you can tell people like how to make a black and white works, right? From your experience, right? Maybe a few pointers so that people can start to look into that.
Sure. First, we must say some images. If an image is good in terms of composition and contrast and lighting, it most likely will be good in both black and white and color. So sometimes the choice really comes down to personal taste and really to your perception, your sensibility. So in this case, as I said, I've developed a very, very strong liking for black and white. So now I'm focusing almost entirely on black and white. And in this image in particular, this image is all about textures. Is all about this beautiful dark and light in the rock behind the leopard, the diagonal line, the texture, the veins in the rocks. So all of this when you bring out black and white, when you bring it out in black and white, you can really enhance it and make these elements come out in their full potential. Here it was raining actually, so the rock is a bit wet. That's why it's also a bit shiny. And in black and white, it really provides the shiny rock comes out as light. So it brings out. So it becomes very interesting and very I really love the way white rocks show up in the black and white. So that's basically the idea. Most of the time is if an image leaves out of contrast, then it will look good in black and white. If there is contrast in the image, then in black and white it could be very good, because you have to make sure that the contrast in the image all contributes to the main elements of the image. So if the contrast, for example, if the light is away from the subject, then it will not work, because the eyes will be drawn away from the subject. So it's kind of even in black and white, the same concepts of light and dark apply. And the other thing that is very interesting about black and white, and that you might not be able to do in color, once you're shooting in black and white, you've basically already removed the image from the reality, from how people actually see color and expect a scene to look like. So once you have removed that sort of anchor to the reality, then you can be more creative and provide and put more of yourself, more of your interpretation in the image. By reinforcing the contrast, reinforcing the dark areas, reinforcing the light areas, according to how much you want. Whereas if I did it, for example, if I left this image in color, I wouldn't have been able to get so much light out of these rocks behind, because it would have looked fake in color. It would have looked fake.
Yeah.
Whereas here in black and white, we have, and so if it looks fake, at least personally, but most people, I guess, when it looks fake in color, you're just like, you're not, it disconnects you from the image. At least that's what happens to me. I just get not interested in the image if I perceive fake colors, fake, it's just something I don't like at all. So whereas in black and white, you have removed that. And so you can now play and get more light, less light, sky darker, brighter. You can put a lot more of yourself, of your emotions in that image.
Yeah, and I think this is really one of the best explanation about black and white, which is what I got from you, from what you just said, is one is it took away from not took away, but people expected color and reality, right? But when you brought it into the black and white world, you are allowing your own creativity to bring this emotion to them, and with the ability to change a lot of the darkness and brightness based on the filters. If it is still in the color space, then it will not look real. But in black and white, then everything is still very natural, right? So that you really can bring out a lot of this this thing right here, right? So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, what I wanted to point out is, I think Jocelyn also made a good point, is here the leopard is against this black area, so it stands out, right? If the background, the back of the leopard is still with the white color rock, it will not be that obvious, and will not make the photo work, right? So that's something that is very important to talk about. So, but I just want to let everybody knows that we'll try to answer your questions offline too. So don't worry about it. So if you have questions we haven't answered you, I'll try to have Federico to come to look at some of the comments and then try to answer them. But now that time is running out. Maybe we'll talk for maybe another 5 minutes. But I know a lot of you, and also you, Federico, have a very strong connection with elephants, right? This is one of your favorite animals, right? Yeah. So maybe we can talk about your story with Tim, and then maybe we can also talk a little bit about the black and white elephant. But let me just pull out the elephant photo first. I think. Do you want which elephant photo do you want me to take it out? Start.
You want to get Tim out? Do you have the one of Tim at the end?
I have the one with the
Team portrait.
Incoming black and white. It's gonna show up in a bit.
Is it of Tim?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you can tell us about the story about your connection and everything.
Yeah. Well, elephants have been, since when I was a child, of all the African animals, probably elephants were my favorites. I was completely obsessed by elephants when I was a child, and so that obviously carried on when I moved here. Although in the meantime I became very interested in the cats as well. So that's in the Mara, my main focus had probably been cats. But in Amboseli, which is a beautiful national park in the southern of Kenya, almost at the border with Tanzania, at the base of Kilimanjaro. It's a fantastic place. There's a very nice elephant population, which includes some of the last great tuskers, elephants with very huge, very big tusks. And the biggest of them all was this elephant that we see here, who was called Tim. Unfortunately, we are talking in the past because in February 2020, Tim died of natural causes for a disease related to old age. He was 51 years old, and so he was quite old for an elephant, for a wild elephant bull. And but I was lucky enough to see him and follow him extensively from 2010 to 2020. I first saw him one morning in 2010 when he was coming out among in a herd of about 200 or 300 elephants, and when I saw him with this fantastic tusk, and he was coming closer and closer and closer, and it was just, the sight was just unbelievable. And he was a very gentle elephant, very, very tame, absolutely relaxed. He would never charge, never show any sign of aggression. He was a super sweet elephant. And he was, by the time he died, so yeah, when he was 50, he was the reference, kind of the old wise elephant for the whole population. So a lot of elephants came or lived around, a lot of especially bulls, younger bulls, lived around him, came with him to stay with him, to learn his ways, to learn where he would find food, to learn how to keep safe from him. So that shows the importance of these old members of a population of elephants and of any animal in general. And obviously, needless to say, when the news came that he had died, was shocking, was horrible. He's left a big void. But at the same time, we can console in the fact that he died of old age, or he died of natural causes. So that's not something that humans provoked. He was very well looked after. The elephants in Amboseli are still very well looked after, and so we already are seeing new elephants coming up with large tusks. The population is flourishing, especially this year. There's been amazing rain, so the population is flourishing. So his genes, he's been the elephant who has mated the most in the last 10 years, fortunately. So his genes will have been carried on in the baby elephants that we can see now in Amboseli. So that's he's probably the creature I've become most connected with of all the ones that I've seen. It was such an amazing. You remember, Tinman, when we saw him with the other big tusker, I kind of lost a bit of I didn't really I didn't really give my best photography because I was so taken up by the emotion of seeing this team and the other biggest tusker of Amboseli together. Was an unbelievable encounter, amazing.
Well, I was actually embarrassed to say, because before I came to Africa, I thought an elephant was an elephant was an elephant. But after I saw Tim, because I was just overwhelmed by their big size, so I never really pay attention to like how big the tusker is and how that makes the difference. But when I saw Tim, right, with the tusker basically hanging off the ground, and then every other elephants I saw probably have 1/3 of the length of the tusker, and I saw that the whole the elephant, he was exactly as what you mentioned. He was so calm. It's almost like, when you saw him, you felt the calmness in your inside you, as if like he doesn't care about the world. It's like this whole world, he just look at it through his eyes, but he wouldn't care less. And I think for us human, we should also think about like with this kind of mindset, right? Just like enjoy ourselves, have a relaxing time. It just made me kept thinking about that, which is
yes,
yeah.
The presence of these old bulls is really is calming. You can really feel the soul in where around them. You can really feel their charisma coming through you and taking over. Yeah, I totally share that.
Yeah, and let me show people, the audience, one photo that I really like. At first, I mean, I love all your elephant photo, but last time when I look at that one, it just make me kept looking, which is the low angle elephant one.
Yep.
So this one is. So I just show you, show people the one with the elephant walking, and the picture has on the left you see the elephant against the horizon, and then from the further it almost become like those clip art with the shape of the elephant further and further away, and then you realize that like, oh my God, like I've never seen so many elephants. Like you see 3 or 4 elephants is considered quite a lot nowadays, right? But in this photo, right? And can you like describe like how this was taken and what it means to you? Because I don't know, I kept looking, it is so interesting about the whole texture, about the pattern and everything.
Yeah. It's this image was taken again in Amboseli. In the northwest of Amboseli, there is a dry lake it's called Amboseli Lake. It's a lake that is dry most of the time. Now is very wet because of all the rains that we had. Now is a full lake with water, so now is nothing as you can see here. But when it's dry, it's just more than 100 square kilometers of completely flat, cracked soil cracked by the sun. And the elephants and the other animals, giraffes, zebras, wildebeest, sometimes cross it to get from the feeding grounds, from the woodland where they feed on the other side of the lake, to the water holes at the heart of the park, which in the dry season is the only place where they can find water. So that this walk for the elephant takes about an hour and a half of walking through this stark, extremely ghostly place. In this situation, it was a late afternoon. The elephants were going away from the park. I pulled up and I saw this huge group of elephants, but there were 3 families actually. This group is made up of 3 families, and that's why they are at different sizes, because all of them are at a different distance. So I accompanied them on their walk, and there's so many images that you can take in such a situation. But for this one, I went completely on the ground, not really lying. I don't go out of the car, but it's just taken with the low angle, right angle viewer to have the camera right on the ground, and to have the elephants silhouetted into the sky. The clouds really fill up the sky, so they're a fundamental element in this image and in many of these kinds of images. But there is sunlight, not really sun, but before sunset, when there is on the horizon, you can see the brightness when there are no clouds, and just before the sun breaks below the clouds. So that's what the white on the horizon that we see is. So the elephants are silhouetted very nicely into this white layer between the soil and the clouds. And fortunately, they were in a position where the three families were at different distances, but all perfectly lined up to create
almost no overlap. Yeah.
Yeah, there are about 40 elephants, I guess. I haven't counted them, but we could easily count them. It would. It's sometimes you find one family. Sometimes the biggest number I've seen walking across together was 70 elephants together. Wow. But in elephants population, in certain seasons, especially after the rains, when there is abundant food, elephants are very social animals. So they tend to come together. Even different families might come together to form larger kind of extended family gatherings. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you see groups of 300, 400 elephants in Amboseli and Savo, even in the Mara. But mostly in Amboseli and Savo. In the right season, you can find groups of 200 or 300, 400 sometimes. It's just an unbelievable. You can't photograph it because there's so many that if you go wide, they become just tiny dots, and it's a very challenging photograph to take. So, but it's a fascinating thing.
Yeah, and I wanted to point to the audience that a lot of the elephant photos that you saw. Like wide angle or close up of the elephant, of the texture and all. But for this one, Federico just go against all the common belief to make the elephant actually look like tiny little thing in the whole grand landscape. So you know how crazy this photo really means to us human, because like who would be able to ever even see that many elephants all together in this? I was with Federico when we went to this lake, and we just saw one family crossing, and my heart was jumping up. It was just such a crazy scene that moves me. And now consider there are three families going together. And from this photo, right, you see the interesting point is, the sizes of the elephant just lead your eyes further and further away, and then all the way into this distant mountain, right? So this created such a three-dimensional feel of like timelessness, and with the light and everything coming together, the rule of third really going well. It is just a masterpiece if you look into it. Yet you see that there is nothing about wide angle incoming charging at you, nothing. But you just look at a photo like this, right? Especially like the one in the very far left, right? Walking, striving back, trying to catch up with the group, right? And then and then also in the middle there's the baby following the probably the mother. It's just the whole family dynamics is right there. And then you see some small ones, and then you see a big one in the distance. So it's all this positioning and sizing makes this image just I never get tired to look at that photo. And I hope that this kind of brings you to another perspective in photography, is just to go against the common rule of what you see and try to let your creativity runs wild. And and then you can get something like that. Like Federico was just mentioned that he got really low into this because one common problem is the horizon will cross over the head of the elephant if he didn't get that low in the ground. And also he realized that for this spot, right, in Africa, a lot of the places, the background can be really distracting. But in this place, right, it's almost like a distance you can see to the infinity, right? So Federico already knew that this is a good spot, but then he's just waiting and waiting for this to come up so that all this almost like silhouette, right, in the further area can show up like this. Otherwise, it would not happen. And also, probably it's a cloudy day, so that the cloud also helps to separate the elephant from that. So there's just tons of element to look at. I hope I didn't make these things up, Federico, and I'm just too excited.
No, absolutely right.
Yeah,
absolutely right.
Yeah. So Katie just asked, like, what is the focus point in this picture? Like, which one do you want people to look at? Or you just kind of want to have this grand landscape to make people feel about the numbers, right?
Yeah. The elephants. This is taken actually with quite a wide lens. I think it's a 24-70, so it wasn't too far from the elephants. It's not a telephoto lens, so the elephants are rolling focus, and the idea is just that repetition of shape, and so there isn't. It's just as you say the three-dimensionality with the biggest ones first, and then you look, and you keep looking down, and you see more elephants. But once you see big, they're rolling focus because it's a wide lens, so the depth of field is quite big. So I could get all of them in focus, even though they were at different distances.
So do you put your hand really low from the door so that to get this low angle, and you just look at like the viewfinder, the LCD flipping up, or like how do you do that?
Well, this was taken in the time when there was no LCD, no flipping LCD yet. So this was taken with going down with the head and with the right angle viewer. That's a very useful. It's still because the LCD, the autofocus is not very good sometimes. So sometimes you miss shots. But I've seen that now new cameras are getting better at that. So that's another story. But in these ones, most of my elephants images are taken with the right angle viewer. So I'm looking down. I'm not breaking my neck trying to look into the viewfinder, but I'm just putting the camera down and looking basically towards the ground, and then I can see into the right angle what the camera is pointing at.
I see. Yeah, I'm just kind of showing the other photo with the higher angle because Bob just asked about the lower. So you showed this one with the higher angle, you see the texture of the dry lake, right? And then it's a completely different feeling, which is really pretty amazing, right? Both of them, you took it from the car, but from moving up to moving down, you get like this one is
changes
almost like
completely.
on the Earth's surface, right? You really see the Earth, right? The feeling of it. And
That's it's interesting to compare these two images taken in the same place, more or less of the same situation, elephants walking, but we can see how different the two images are. And in these ones, from when you take them at a higher level, you give a much stronger sense of space, of course. And again, this is taken from a relatively short distance away from the elephant, so I think it's another 24-70 mm. And the main thing here is the leading line. So I found a leading line, and I waited for the elephants to get to that line in order for the eye to be accompanied to the elephants. This is actually a trail of elephants or zebras. They tend to follow trails, so they leave these tracks on the ground as they walk. So that you can find many in this lake. You can find many here. For example, on the right, you can see there is a elephant footprints. This elephant must have walked when the lake was still a bit wet, so he left his big foot into the surface. So you can see that the surface is a bit depressed. That's totally different.
I mean,
for this one, the peculiarity is, if you remember, as you were saying, the horizon behind the elephant is a big challenge. So for this one, I had to go stand, to pop out of the roof and try to go as high as possible to frame the elephants within the horizon. That was the main thing, because if that horizon had been overlapping with the elephant's back, the picture would have been confused and would have not been so direct. It would have been an element of overlapping, which would have caused confusion. So that's why I went as high as possible to make sure that the elephants were entirely within the horizon, to avoid conflicting lines, conflicting elements. This is a very strong thing that in these wide images is very important to consider. Avoid conflicting elements, avoid subject being impacted by something either in front, obviously, because you don't want a tree in front of your subject, but even behind, to make kind of a frame for your subject, a clean frame, so that the subject can be fully highlighted and fully visible without obstructions in front and behind.
I
so
think,
that it can almost
This is super
Yeah.
important, and I kept telling my clients and students about the horizon. We have to pay attention, and a lot of the time they may not be aware. And so far, I've only seen. Not a lot of photographers paying attention. I've talked to like Paul McKinsey, Charles Glasser. They are all very aware of the horizon, and I can see that you are the master of that. And when people look at a photo like this, they might not realize how much hard work you have to put in. First, you have to get really, really high to get rid of the horizon distraction, and then you have to wait for the moment with the leading line pointing right at the elephant and get the shot, right? And then you have to position yourself where the cloud and everything comes together. You have to leave the space in the front so that you have some space for the elephant to walk to. Everything. People will think that the elephant walk very slowly and it should be an easy shot. But I bet over that time you are really in your full gear, right? Getting all your engine running.
Sure, absolutely. It's really, yeah. There's sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes, yeah. It's once you see that, once you're in such a place with such magnificent subjects, then you start thinking and so what to do? Where do I go? Left, right, angle. Also choosing the angle. In this case, I'm a bit backlit to make them even more to make them kind of silhouetted against the background. Although there is no light, but there's still, even if there's no sun, the sun behind the clouds still brings a bit of light, and that's why you have these elephants kind of showing up quite dark against the bright background, because I'm kind of shooting into the light. If I had gone the other way, there would have been much less contrast between the elephant and the soil. So the image would have not been so strong. So all these things you have to consider, and as the elephants move, and they move slowly, but one step of an elephant is like 4 of ours. So they do actually, when it seems like they're going slowly, but they can cover a lot.
We were moving on stop chasing, like trying to keep up with them. And I'm so glad you mentioned about the shooting into an overcast day while the sun is still behind, because a lot of people think that overcast is just overcast and it's the same. And for me, I don't know, I haven't told you, but I also love to shoot when the sun is actually behind the cloud, but we are shooting towards the sun, and then you have this really, really nice rim light, but then the front is also with very nice detail.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is actually sometimes better than just direct backlit and some. It's all very interesting. I'm so glad we mentioned about it. Yeah. So, God, I mean, I think even though it is a very exciting talk, but it is already 30 minutes past our time. So I just hope that all the audience hearing right now you understand why I love Federico's photos, and why I saw him as I see him as my idol. Right? I mean, he gave us a glimpse of his art and his photography, and also his vision and his hope about really bringing the beauty of and wonder of African wildlife to the world, so that we are more aware of the protection of them. So I think and the key thing is Federico's book is currently in the Kickstarter, the One Life, and I mean I myself learned a lot from this interview about the story behind each of those photos. So I highly recommend you guys to go to Federico. Can you send people a link? You can go to federicoveronesi.com, and there should be a link. But I mean, there's just no question.
We can put it in a comment.
Yeah, no question about his book. Not really just to advertise, but just think about how much impact with your support, with his photography, to bring this beauty to the world, to bring the awareness. So I mean, I didn't think twice to send you all my email list about, like, you guys better buy before it goes out of stock. And I think in the in the comments, a lot of people were asking you whether you would plan to reprint the Light and Dust as well. I don't know if you have seen that. Like, a lot of people are asking that.
No, I'm not seeing the comments. No, I don't want to. No, I'm not seeing the comments as they happen. No, Light and Dust will unfortunately will not be printed again. We are unfortunately we've done 5,000 copies already. So I think the publisher thought, well, probably there's. So in the future, maybe I'll do another book where I kind of maybe put all the ones together, all my all my best ones together, hopefully. So, but no, unfortunately, Light and Dust will not be printed again.
Okay, and so
I think the Italian version is still available. Italian version is still available. If somebody wants to learn Italian while watching the pictures, you can have a chance.
Yeah, well, people just buy the one live first, and then I'll try to convince Federico about the other book later. So how do people get to your book, the one live? Because it's gonna end in the Kickstarter is gonna end in June 21st, right? So.
Sure. Yeah. We up to June 21st, people can buy in a sort of pre-order the book already in Kickstarter, and then after June 21st, the advantage of pre-ordering now is it's slightly cheaper than it will be when it will be out. When the book will be out, it will be slightly more expensive. Nothing out of this world, but and the advantage is it gives support. The idea of Kickstarter is to support the financing of the project. That element has already been reached, right? But it's still good to, if you want to contribute in Kickstarter, it's very good. It's you're most welcome. Otherwise, the book will be available on order afterwards from. My website, Amazon, and maybe not all the bookstores, because this book is going to be published entirely by myself. I'm not going through a publisher. I just want to publish it by myself, so it will be on my website for sure.
Okay. Do you have the link?
We're going to do.
Do you have a link to the book right now? You can put it on the.
Sure. I think. How do I retrieve it? It is on the Skype.
Yeah,
I think you have it. I sent it to you on Skype this morning. Copy link. Shall I send it to you on Facebook?
Just write on the comment there. I think I also have the link now, so I'll just put it on here. That's the problem though, because there's so many comments and it's gonna go out of that. So what I'm gonna do probably is after this after this meeting is ended, I put a link at the description of of this meeting, so that people
of the video. Yeah, I saw you put it in a comment already, isn't it?
Yeah, I put it on the comment. So thank you so much for your time. I still have probably another 1,000 questions to ask you, but we'll
can do it again if people like it. We can easily do it again. I'm happy to do it again if you want.
Yeah, because we still have the like today we prepare for what 30 photos, and we only talk for like 5 of them. And you still haven't told us the story about your caracal experience. That's
another good one.
Yeah, and then the oryx, and I mean that one blew my mind. And we have all the rhino, and we talk a little bit about the backlighting. I think now people are convinced about how important it is to get black and white, but also the difficulties of getting a good shot. It's not just like zooming out and getting a photo. It's so many ingredients that go into it. So to end this, right? Maybe we can end this with one last question about like if people are starting on photography or plan on going to Africa and all, is there one tip that you can give them, like one advice you can give to them to begin to really kickstart them?
Well, I think if somebody's going to Africa for the first time, my first suggestion is to just immerse yourself, just get in tune with the animals. Don't be obsessed by the photographs. Just relax and get an emotional connection with them, and then the images will start flowing. Images will start coming out, and obviously it takes time, to see many things. You might, when you see these images, these are images from 14 years of life, so you can't expect to see everything in one trip. But the best thing is to just get into it, get into the place, get the feeling of the place, so that it will come to you. And in general, I as I've done it in my life, I've concentrated on a few places that I really know, that I really developed a very strong connection and knowledge with. So that could be an advice to just go deep. That's not only for Africa, but try to go deep in your photography, go deep on a subject, go deep on a place, take time with a strong focus, see that same subject in different lights, see the same subject in different places. That really helps you to bring out all your creative flow. That's rather than trying to see so many different things and maybe get a record shot of everything. It's better to focus on one and really go deep into that one. Obviously, it must be something that you like, that you love. You don't. So that's probably my advice. Besides Africa. But that's what I would probably.
Very good tips. Just don't forget why we love this hobby, this passion, right? To really love the love of the animal first, and then observe them and really enjoy our time, and then the shot comes, instead of trying to rush it to get all these mind-blowing shots, right? That's really the best way.
Absolutely.
That's really
absolutely.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
I think before we end, there's so many questions. So I saw that a lot of people were asking about how do you process your black and white, and I think that probably will take another 10 hours or 10 days to talk. But maybe you can just give them. A lot of them were just asking what software you use, and maybe you can just maybe in 20 seconds give them an overview of.
I use different softwares, but the majority of the work you can already do it in Lightroom. If you use Adobe Lightroom, you don't have to go too far. Lightroom has all the capabilities to bring out a fantastic black and white. Then other softwares might help you to get more detail in the shadows and like silver effects, etc. But the most important thing is in the black and white is how you visualize the image. Is taking time before starting to convert, even before you click black and white.
I see.
Look at the image. Look at the image in color. We have the luck compared to people who were shooting film. They had to make the decisions, their interpretative decision beforehand, because they were using filters on the lens. So once you've made the decision, you have your photo is already in black and white. In digital, we have the chance to look at the picture in color, study the image, and let your creativity and your interpretation dictate what tonality you want each part of the image, what tonality you want the subject to be. You want it dark, you want it light, you want a dark subject on a light background like these elephants. I don't know if they're still on, or if you want a bright subject on a dark background. So all this interpretation is what you really need to focus on, and then using the tools of the software, which Lightroom is perfectly capable to do, like with selective processing, dodging and burning, and color sliders within the black and white panel. You can play with that in order to dictate which tonality every part of the image shows up.
I see.
So that's basically my and the main thing is to try to channel the viewer to the most relevant parts of the image. That's
so leading the eyes
to do that
to the
leading the eyes of the viewer into the focus of the image with subtle burning and dodging and burning here and there.
I love what you said.
So that's
So it's not about a workflow or not about which tool you use. It's more about your own perception of what you want. The emotion to bring out, and then you use the tool to really help to in a subtle way to bring it out, right? So yeah, that's fantastic. Well, I mean, thank you so much for your time, Federico, and
Thank you. Thank
I
you all.
hope that now all the audience are falling in love with you and your photography too. Hearing all these stories about I mean, we understand more about the struggle, the life, and why you are so passionate about this wildlife. And I hope that from today's talk, more people are falling in love with the wildlife of on our earth. And I mean, for myself, I definitely have more understanding and about the hard work, right? The giraffe backlit photo, how you observe and created the photo on the fly, and all these subtle things that goes in. I hope all the audience would enjoy it. And well, I hope to get you in for the next time. And thank you so much. And for everybody, if you're watching live or watching the replay, if you have any questions for Federico or even for me, just type it there, and we will try to get to the comment in the future and get back to you. And if you have questions about the new book that is coming out or any of the tours that well, I shouldn't advertise your tour because I still want to go on myself so that it doesn't get sold out. But but make sure to leave a space for me. But then if people have questions about your tour, then yeah, you can type in the comment and we'll talk to you more later. So oh yeah, I saw a lot of people are buying the book, and I can't wait for the book. So yeah. So thank you so much, Federico, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Bye, Dinman.
Okay. Bye bye. Bye bye.
Ciao.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Okay. Bye bye.